Have you ever been spoken to like you were insignificant, simply because someone assumed your background, your age, or your worth? Have you ever watched someone look at you with that condescending smirk, the kind that silently says, "You're not on my level," and wish life would give them a moment that shuts their arrogance down completely? Because today's story begins exactly like that, with a powerful millionaire who believed intelligence belonged only to people like him, and a young black girl he barely noticed, the quiet daughter of a maid he underpaid and overlooked. But here's the part that grips you. Something happened in that office one morning that none of them, not the executives, not the millionaire, not even the girl herself, could have predicted. A single phone ringing on a restricted European line, a language no one there spoke, and a response that would send a shockwave through the entire company. But before we reveal what she said, or why that call mattered so much, there's a question that will keep echoing through every part of this story. What happens when the person everyone dismisses suddenly becomes the only person who can save everything? Richard Van Heusen wasn't just a millionaire. He was a man drowning in pressure, desperate to maintain the image of a flawless leader while hiding the truth that his company was bleeding money. His arrogance wasn't just personality, it was armor. And that armor made him blind, especially to people he didn't think mattered. Like Esther, the maid he spoke around, not to, and her daughter, Amora, a polite, quiet girl who always carried a worn notebook pressed to her chest, filled with tiny sketches, numbers, and strange symbols no one bothered to understand. Richard saw her as background noise, but his executives, they whispered about her. They'd catch her staring at stock tickers on TV, scribbling equations. They once found her gently correcting a typo on a financial poster. Small signs of intelligence, subtle, easy to miss, but enough to make one or two executives uneasy. How does a maid's child know this stuff? Still, no one said a word. Why would they? Richard didn't tolerate nonsense. And besides, what threat could a teenage girl with a notebook possibly pose to a billionaire? That's what made everything that followed so terrifyingly beautiful. It started with a shrill ring, sharp enough to slice through morning chatter. The Dutch investment hotline, a line so high level that even senior executives avoided touching it. The screen flashed red. The room stiffened. Someone muttered, "Where's Richard?" Someone else snapped, "No one answer that. No one." Panic spread. Then, quietly, Amora stepped closer. Not confidently, cautiously. She whispered, "That's Dutch. They're asking if anyone is available." Everyone froze. One executive scoffed, "You understood that?" Another laughed nervously. "Don't pretend. Kid, step back." But when the phone repeated a phrase, faster, more urgent, Amora answered a single sentence in Dutch, soft and unsure. The room went dead silent. An executive lunged forward. "Put that down." She lifted the phone out of instinct, not courage. "Hello?" she said, in perfect Dutch this time. The executives exchanged horrified looks. One tried to yank the phone from her hand, but stopped when the Dutch voice on the speaker demanded, "Who am I speaking to?" The air thickened. Amora swallowed hard, and what she said next made three executives physically back away. And before anyone could stop her, she handled the entire call. A negotiation that could save or destroy the company, in a language no one else in that skyscraper understood. Richard stormed into the office halfway through the call, ready to explode, but froze at the sight of his executives huddled around a maid's daughter, listening as if their lives depended on every word she spoke. For a moment he just stayed, jaw tightening, eyes narrowing. When Amora hung up, the room stayed silent. Richard's voice dropped to a dangerous calm. Who authorized her to touch that line? He didn't see brilliance. He saw rebellion. He demanded the call be replayed. And as the audio filled the room, Amora navigating Dutch financial models, correcting a miscommunicated clause, catching a potential $6 million error, Richard's anger twisted into denial. Someone fed her that. He snapped, "This is staged." But then came the moment that broke his certainty. The Dutch negotiator had asked her an unscripted question, a complex one, and she answered instantly, flawlessly. Richard's eyes flickered. Insecurity cracked through his arrogance. He didn't want to accept that a girl he had ignored could do something he could not. Yet something else crept in. Fear. Because if she was this capable, how much control had he already lost without knowing it? And worse, how much more could she do? Richard didn't invite them to his office. He summoned them, his voice echoing through the halls. Esther trembled the entire walk there, whispering at her daughter, "Why did you answer that phone?" "Why? Amora." She didn't scold. She feared. Richard stood behind his massive desk when they entered, hands clasped tightly, trying to hide how shaken he truly was. "Amora," he said slowly, "tell me honestly, who taught you Dutch?" A strange question, too calm, too heavy, and the executives outside leaned in, trying to listen. Amora hesitated. "No one," she said. I learned from old online videos and books from the library." Richard's expression twitched, disbelief mixed with something darker. He circled her like she was a puzzle he couldn't solve. "Do you understand what you handled today?" he asked. "Do you have any idea what could have happened if you had made one mistake?" His tone wasn't admiration, it was suspicion. Esther tried to apologize, but he raised a hand sharply. He leaned in, voice low. "Amora, would you be willing to work for me?" Esther gasped, but the executives, listening from outside, gasped louder, because the way he asked wasn't generous. It wasn't kind. It sounded like a trap, like he wasn't offering an opportunity. He was trying to claim a resource he feared losing. Amora didn't answer right away. For the first time, her hands trembled slightly, not from fear of Richard, but from the weight of the decision. She glanced at her mother, then at the floor, gathering herself. Richard mistook the silence as compliance. "Good," he said, already reaching for a contract template. "We can begin. Wait." Amora's voice cut through the room. She placed a notebook on the table and opened it. Not to equations this time, but to a list she had written long before today. A list titled, "If I ever get the chance." She read her conditions aloud. 1. Her mother's salary tripled. 2. Her mother be given health benefits equal to executives. Executives outside gasped. Richard's jaw tightened. And then came the bold one, the one that made a senior executive choke on his coffee. 3. I want full access to the company's financial archives. Past, present, restricted. Silence. Heavy. Dangerous. Richard's face drained. That wasn't a child's request. That was someone who understood exactly where the bodies were buried. "Absolutely not," he whispered. But he needed her genius. The Dutch board was calling again that afternoon. His company's survival was now tied to a girl he had dismissed. He stared at her list again and realized something terrifying. This wasn't negotiation. This was leverage. She wasn't asking for a job. She was rewriting the power balance of the entire building. And maybe this is a part that lingers, the reminder tucked quietly inside this story. Sometimes the people who walk softly carry thunder no one sees coming. Amora didn't rise because someone handed her a chance. She rose because someone underestimated her so deeply that they accidentally revealed the one place she could transform everything. And isn't that life? The same people who judge you based on your age, your job, your background, are often the ones who end up needing your wisdom the most. They just don't know it until the moment you step forward and say the thing they never expected you to know, or do the thing they believed you were incapable of doing. And for many of us, that moment doesn't erase the years of being overlooked. But it does something even more powerful. It proves that dignity, brilliance, and strength don't ask for permission to exist. They simply rise when the world finally runs out of excuses.